So you're sitting at your desk. It's 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. You're staring at your computer screen, and you're doing this mental calculation you've done 1,000 times before. You're making, let's say, $75,000 a year. That sounds pretty good, right? That's $6,250 a month. But after taxes, after your 401k contribution, after health insurance, you're looking at maybe $4,200 hitting your account. And you're thinking, if I just keep doing this for another 30 years, I'll be fine. I'll retire comfortably. And here's the thing. The math doesn't work. Like, it literally doesn't work. And almost nobody shows you why. My name is Arthur, and I spend way too much time thinking about why the traditional career path is basically designed to keep you financially stuck. If you're someone who's been doing everything right, you went to college, you got the decent job, you're saving in your 401k, but you still feel like you're running on a treadmill going nowhere, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're going to break down the actual mathematics of wealth building, and I'm going to show you why your salary, no matter how good it looks, is probably the worst wealth building tool you have access to. Look, I need you to understand something that took me way too long to figure out. Your salary is not designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to make you comfortable enough that you keep showing up. Let me show you what I mean with actual numbers, because this is where it gets really eye-opening. Let's say you're 30 years old and you're making $75,000 a year. That's above the median household income in the US, which sits around $70,000. You're doing better than average. Now, let's be optimistic. Let's say you get a 3% raise every single year, which, by the way, most people don't, and you work until you're 65. Here's the math. Over those 35 years, you'll earn approximately $4.1 million in total gross income. Sounds amazing, right? $4 million. But here's what most people don't realize. That's gross income. The IRS is taking their cut. With federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, you're losing minimum 25 to 30% right off the top. So that $4.1 million is really about $2.9 million in your pocket over 35 years. Now you've got to eat. You've got to live somewhere. You've got to pay for transportation, insurance, kids' expenses if you have them. The average American household spends about $60,000 per year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Even if you're more frugal and keep it to $50,000 per year, that's $1.75 million over 35 years. So we started with $4.1 million gross. We're down to $2.9 million after taxes, minus $1.75 million for living expenses. You're left with about $1.15 million saved over 35 years. Now, you might be thinking, Arthur, $1.15 million is pretty good. I'd be happy with that. And I get it. But here's where the psychology comes in and absolutely destroys people. Nobody keeps their expenses at $50,000 a year when they're making $75,000, then $85,000, then $100,000. This is the thing that kills people financially. And it's so predictable, it's almost painful to watch. You get that promotion. You're now making $85,000 instead of $75,000. You're bringing home an extra $625 a month after taxes. And you think, finally, I can upgrade my apartment. Or, I can finally get that nicer car. Or, we can finally afford to eat out more. This is called lifestyle creep. And there's actually fascinating research on this from a 2019 study in the Journal of Consumer Research. They found that for every dollar increase in income, people increased their spending by 78 cents on average within the first year. So that $10,000 raise, you're only actually saving about $2,200 of it. The rest evaporates into a slightly nicer lifestyle that you now can't downgrade from without feeling like you're failing. And here's what's really messed up about this. Your brain is wired to do this. There's something called hedonic adaptation. Basically, you get used to things really quickly. That new car that felt amazing for the first month. In 6 months, it's just your car. But the payment, that payment lasts for 6 years. I see this all the time with people in my life. Someone gets promoted from $65,000 to $95,000, and 3 years later, they're telling me they're still living paycheck to paycheck, and they genuinely don't understand how it happened. But it's because they're now spending $92,000 a year instead of $62,000. Okay, so here's where we need to talk about what actually builds wealth, because I'm not just here to depress you about your salary.
I want you to to understand the fundamental difference between trading time for money and building actual wealth. There are really only three ways to build significant wealth. 1. Equity ownership. 2. Leverage. 3. Asymmetric returns. Let me break these down because this is the stuff they absolutely do not teach you in school. Equity ownership means you own a piece of something that grows in value. This could be stock in a company, ownership in a business, real estate, intellectual property, anything where you own an asset that can appreciate and ideally generate income. Here's the thing about equity. It compounds. Your salary doesn't compound. You get paid $75,000 this year. You work your hours. You get paid. Next year, you start over. But equity in a growing asset that builds on itself. Look at the difference. If you save $20,000 a year in a savings account at 0.5% interest, after 30 years, you have about $609,000. Not terrible. But if you invest that same $20,000 per year in index funds, averaging 8% annual returns, which is below the S&P 500's historical average, after 30 years, you have $2.4 million. The difference is $1.8 million. That's the power of equity ownership and compound growth. Leverage is using other people's money, time, or resources to amplify your returns. The wealthy understand this intimately. Real estate is the clearest example. You put $60,000 down on a $300,000 property. You rent it out. The tenant pays your mortgage. The property appreciates 4% per year. In 10 years, that property is worth $444,000. You now have about $200,000 in equity from a $60,000 investment. That's a 233% return. Try getting that with your salary. Or business leverage. You build a system, hire people to run it, and your income isn't capped by your hours. You're leveraging other people's time. Asymmetric returns mean situations where your potential upside is massive compared to your downside. Starting a business costs you maybe $5,000 and your time. If it fails, you lose $5,000. If it succeeds, you could build a $5 million asset. That's asymmetric. Working a 9 to 5, that's the opposite. Your upside is completely capped. There's only so much you can make in your salary band. But your downside is you trade the best hours of every day for decades. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Arthur, I get it, but I need my salary to live. I can't just quit my job and start a business or buy real estate. And look, I'm not saying you should quit your job tomorrow, but here's what I am saying. Most people use their salary as an excuse to never build wealth, when they should be using their salary as a tool to build wealth. This is the psychological trap, and it's brutal. Your job gives you just enough to feel secure, but not enough to actually become financially free. And that feeling of security is what keeps you locked in. There's research from Princeton University that found that emotional well-being rises with income up to about $75,000 per year. But beyond that, more money doesn't make you significantly happier. You know what does make you happy? Autonomy, control over your time, freedom from financial stress. But here's the paradox. To get that freedom, you have to be willing to feel temporarily less secure. You have to take some portion of your salary and deploy it into assets. You have to spend time outside your 9 to 5 building something. And most people won't do it because the comfort of that bi-weekly paycheck is too psychologically powerful. I've watched friends make $150,000, $200,000 a year, and they're more stressed than when they made $60,000 because now they've upgraded everything. They've got the $3,500 per month apartment, the $800 car payment, the $200 per month gym membership, the subscription services, the weekend getaways. They're prisoners of their own lifestyle. And the thing that frustrates me the most, they actually had more financial flexibility when they made less. Because when you make $60,000 and spend $45,000, you have $15,000 to invest in your future. When you make $150,000 and spend $145,000, you have $5,000. The person making less is building more wealth. All right, so what do you actually do with this information? Because I don't want you to just be depressed about your salary. I want you to use it strategically. Here's the framework. Step 1. Accept that your salary is a tool, not a destination. Your job is not your path to wealth. It's your capital source. It's
It's the money you're going to use to actually build wealth. Once you shift your mindset from "my salary is my wealth" to "my salary funds my wealth build," everything changes.
Step 2. Ruthlessly defend your savings rate. This is the single most important number in your financial life. Not your income, your savings rate. If you make $100,000 and save $20,000, your savings rate is 20%. If you make $70,000 and save $20,000, your savings rate is 28.5%. The person making less is getting wealthy faster. Your target should be minimum 20%, ideally 30 to 40% if you're serious about building wealth. And here's the key. Every time you get a raise, save 100% of it for the first year. Don't let lifestyle creep steal your wealth building opportunity. Step 3. Deploy your capital into assets, not liabilities. Every dollar you save needs a job, and that job is to make you more money. Index funds, rental properties, starting the side business, building skills that increase your earning power. These are assets. A new car, a bigger apartment, designer clothes. These are liabilities disguised as success. Here's a simple rule. If it doesn't generate income or appreciate in value, you can't afford it until your assets are generating enough passive income to cover it. Step 4. Build an escape velocity. This is where you use your salary to create income sources that aren't dependent on your time. Maybe that's dividend income from investments. Maybe that's rental income. Maybe that's a business that runs without you. The goal is to reach a point where your passive income exceeds your living expenses. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you hit that point, you're free, not retired. Free. You can keep working if you want to, but now you're working because you choose to, not because you have to. That's the difference between wealthy and just high income. Step 5. Increase your earning power. Look, I'm not going to tell you salary doesn't matter. It does. But increasing your salary should be about creating more capital to deploy, not funding the fancier lifestyle. The fastest way to increase the earning power: develop skills that create value for others. Sales, marketing, coding, copywriting, video editing, financial analysis, skills that directly generate revenue. These skills not only increase your salary potential, they give you the ability to eventually work for yourself. Here's the reality. The system is designed to keep you on the hamster wheel. You go to school to get a good job, to make a good salary, to buy stuff you don't need, to impress people you don't like. And you do it for 40 years until you're too old to enjoy the freedom you've supposedly earned. But you're watching this video, which means you're already thinking differently. You're already questioning the default path. And that's the first step. Your salary isn't going to make you rich. But if you use it strategically, if you keep your lifestyle in check, if you deploy your capital into actual assets, if you build systems that generate income without your constant time input, your salary can be the launchpad for actual wealth. The math is simple. The execution is hard. But the alternative is spending the next 30 years wondering why you're working so hard and still feeling broke. So here's my challenge to you. Calculate your actual savings rate right now, not what you think it is. Pull up your bank statements and figure out what percentage of your after-tax income you saved last month. If it's under 20%, you've got work to do. If it's over 30%, you're already ahead of 90% of people. Drop your savings rate in the comments. Let's see where everyone's actually at. And if this video changed how you think about your salary and wealth building, hit that subscribe button, because we go deep on this stuff. Remember, your salary is not your wealth. It's what you do with your salary that determines your wealth. I'll see you in the next one.